Hi, everybody. I'm super excited. Today, I got a very special guest for you all the way in Sweden. So this is new for me, and I just connected to Niomi Lindfors. So obviously, I'm like, oh, I can't speak Swedish. So, but I hope I got it right. So welcome, Naomi. And so short, quick introduction before we dive into our interview. So Naomi, her background is in yoga and massage, and so she do it in in-house. And but she also have an online business which is focused on helping women, especially in the relationships. And she does something called cognitive behavioral therapy, which I'm dying to hear more about. So that's a quick introduction. So welcome, Naomi.
Thank you, Z. I'm excited.
So first of all, I mean, we can all tell that she looks super healthy and well, and her business is actually called Stella Wellness. So I think first of all, I'd love to hear a little bit more about what's the idea behind your business, Stellar Wellness, because she's a founder of this business, and I can see that it is quite holistic because you have the component of more the body work, which is the massage and the yoga practice, which I love massage and yoga myself, so I'm like, that sounds like a great person to interview. But also you do cognitive therapy. So tell us a little bit what's the idea behind Stellar Wellness.
Yes, I would love to. It is a holistic wellness center, and the focus is on women. And my background myself is in psychology. I have 2 master's degrees in psychology from when I lived in London. And I've always been really interested in human behavior, the power of the mind, and that's definitely my huge passion. So that's kind of like the start of my business. And CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is a component of psychology. So it's a type of framework, a model, and that focuses on cognitive psychology and behavioral psychology. So the whole link is about our thoughts and our feelings, our emotions, our physical sensations in our body, and our behaviors, and how all of those are linked. So that is kind of cognitive behavioral therapy in a nutshell. And with Stella Wellness, I really wanted to start a business to help women that had a focus not only on the mind, but on like the whole human body, kind of mind, body and soul working together. So that is how Stella Wellness came about. And I've always had passion for massage like yourself. I love going to get treatments. That's probably my favorite thing to do, to spend my money on, is to book a massage or any kind of holistic treatment. I also love acupuncture and craniosacral therapy. And then yoga is something that I've always done since I was a child. So I was raised with yoga and meditation, and so just the business is about taking my own experience as well as my background in psychology and kind of bringing them together and offering that to women as a service.
And that's why I find it so interesting, because for me, like, I do definitely believe, everything has its place. So I think it's great to do therapy work that may be more intellectual, and we verbally communicate and we share. And so I do believe, I mean, I work as a coach, so a big component of it is quite, communicative and quite intellectual. At the same time, I definitely need that physical component. And I don't offer yoga, or I'm a dancer, and I used to teach a little bit of dancing, and I do find that it's so important for everyone's life. So for my client, a lot of times that the to-do list will include meditation or do some home exercise, because I think it's so important to integrate them together. It's just that I'm not a practitioner as such, but I that's what I love when I read your website, that how holistic your service is. And coming from a psychologist, because a lot of psychologists, they may stay in that field, and they may working in more the capacity of being an intellectual, but for you to dive into also practice and teach yoga and massages, it's quite like, unusual. So that's why I thought it was very interesting. So what kind of bring you, because you could be happily just be a psychologist as well, and you tell your clients to go and do yoga and stuff, but so what prompts you to actually have to take it on yourself as well?
Yeah, because in CBT, it does sound like there's a focus on the thinking aspect, as you said, the kind of intellectual talking. It's just a talk therapy, but it is actually such a active form of therapy. It's a lot like coaching, and so it's very much goal orientated. I really like it because it means that the person who has come and made the decision to have some CBT has taken some responsibility. So there's like a kind of sense of agency. Like I've decided I'm going to do this. I'm going to make a change. So it comes actually from a very mindful place. And mindfulness is actually such a huge part of the whole CBT framework and the sessions. I think when I offer, say, 4 to 6 sessions, each 1 hour long, at least 2 of those sessions are focused on mindfulness and how we can incorporate that into daily life. So that might be meditation, that might be other aspects, but it's this kind of way of encouraging mindful practices. And it seems like they don't go together, or it's unusual, but actually I think they go perfectly well together. And I really it's why I'm so passionate about CBT.
And I think sometimes people just have to be open-minded, because if you don't try, you actually cannot tell how great it may integrate something together. So, and I think as you said, that you think when you're between 4 to 6 sessions, and it is really great to have different components, and they actually work really beautifully together. And I think sometimes I'm an advocate of, if someone is using a particular kind of therapy for 10 years and nothing really happened, then I would say that's not the right kind, or you may need to try something else. And I'm always someone there who is very open to it. And I think you feel that whether you resonate with something. So maybe yoga is not for everybody, even though it's for a lot of people. It may not be for certain individuals, and that's okay. And I think it's about finding things that work for you, and giving yourself the permission to try and be open to different things. And there are things that, first time when I it's a bit of side story. So first time, I don't know whether you're aware of the emotional, it was an EFT, emotional something technique. So there's a bit of tapping. Yes. And so years ago when I had a session, and I was in a very different place. I was a lot more younger, and like, just I want to do things, and I want therapy that is very, very obvious to me. Like, I don't know how to describe it. So for that tapping thing, I was just like, what is this? Like, I was completely, and once I make a judgment in my head, and I was in my early 20s, nothing is coming through, right? My mind is just rejecting the whole thing. So, and I was like, oh, this is stupid. I don't like it. Then years later, I was then picking up dancing as a performer and competing. And once I actually have a blank out, like sometimes your brain do this funny thing when you're under stress or nervous, that you just gone blank, and then you may come back in a split second. But I was really scared that I blank, as in I was dancing, and in the middle of it, I forget what's my next step, but then it came back. And it was partner dancing, so someone was kind of helping you a little bit, so it's no big deal at the end of the day. But it freaked me out, that blank, and I know that it could be our mind having that stress and just have this moment. But then someone taught me that this tapping technique can help me with this kind of situation. And then like 10 years later, I went back to doing this tapping technique on my body, and it worked for me. I just felt that was what worked for me at this time. 10 years later, with my nerves being going on stage, and incorporating something not just mental, intellectual, but physical, because you tap those meridian points. I mean, I'm just learning the basic stuff, but that was my experience, how what I used to think the intellectual piece is so important and everything else is less. Then later, when I'm more mature and have different experience, that piece really helped me. So that's why when I came across your business, I think that's super cool, because you're actually integrating a few different things together. So I don't know
Yeah.
how what is your experience? Is it how you like, is there any story that you can share that got you to, realize that, you know what, I need to put them together?
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree with you, especially with the EFT, because I've had that same experience where I've had some resistance to an idea at a certain point in time, but then later on, in many years later perhaps, I have come back to it, and that technique or whatever it was, that treatment or ideas helped me. And I do really strongly believe in like kind of the right time,
Mm.
and that everything happens kind of at the right time. But it's so helpful if you have an open mind about it. But yeah, from my own experience, it's definitely, my whole business is definitely created from my own struggles, my own challenges that I faced, because as I said, I was raised with meditation and yoga, so I kind of had this luxury or privilege in a way to be raised with these skills,
Mm.
because they are skills, they're useful techniques, and the younger you are when you learn them, the kind of deeper they sit in a way. It's never too late, but it's almost like the seed has been planted, and then it's up to you if you want to nourish it. And I definitely moved away from, when I left home, I definitely kind of stopped and started, and
Mm.
with my meditation practice and yoga, depending on what was happening in my life. And I noticed that the times when I just didn't make time for meditation, or had like a period where I just stopped doing yoga, I kind of felt it was more challenging to deal with certain life situations. I feel like it was difficult for me sometimes to handle stressful situations without those tools.
Mm.
So yeah, that's like my big passion, why I wanted to include that in my business. And the catalyst was definitely when I became a mother. I've got 4 kids, and I had them very close together. I had 4 babies in 4 years.
Wow.
Um, so, um, but they, and they're very, very lovely children. But after my first child, I moved from London with my husband and my baby to Sweden, because my husband wanted to have more of a work-life balance, which is a little bit easier here in
Mm-hmm.
Sweden than in London. But I found this move very challenging, moving from a huge, really fun city where I had family and friends, and moving to a new place where we didn't know anyone. It was a very small town and another country, so I had to learn the language,
Wow.
get used to all of that change. And moving is quite stressful if the conditions are not that favorable. And I had a baby as well, so it was this kind of time where it was probably like the catalyst for me. I suddenly realized that I started to experience a lot of anxiety and stress, which I had never experienced before. Um, Obviously worked with a lot of clients who had dealt with that, seen my friends, and even my husband has experienced anxiety. It's very common in our society. But I had never experienced it. So that actual physically, emotionally, and mentally experiencing those symptoms was such a shock for me. And that's when I realized that I needed to kind of make some changes, and that included, having a daily, making time basically for regular yoga for myself, regular meditation, and to really just kind of be a bit more patient and kind with myself. And it's like you said, what works for one person might not work for another person. Like some people might not like yoga, and that's okay. There's an activity and there's a technique for everyone. just had to find it. And so I wanted to share this with the people in my community.
Mm. And I just love your story so much. There's so many things I want to, kind of like dive deeper into it, because you speak about a lot of very interesting things. So where should I start? So one of the things is that I think when one of the things you mentioned, and we actually also said a little bit earlier, is when a student is ready, the teacher will appear at the same time. When the teacher is ready, then students will come along. So maybe that was just a time and a place for you to integrate everything together, given your personal experience. So that was one of the things that I really believe, that it's almost that universe has a plan for you, and the move was challenging. You're being uprooted completely, and then you experience anxiety, which you never had before. So you actually have that personal experience. So therefore, you take out your toolbox and say, this is super important. I must change the way I live. And because you have more things to manage, and we as women, we go through different stages, and each of them will require us to make changes and manage ourselves slightly differently. So what used to work 10 years ago may not work anymore. And there's a level of anxiety towards change for anyone, especially when you have a young baby, which means your hormone is we remember, I have a baby 2 years ago, so we understand that a little something can just send me off to a different tangent for no reason. And then 2 years ago, like, why was I crying about that? And then it was challenging to uproot at such that you described. So it almost felt like everything like the seed is being planted, and then it kind of come to fruition. And then, you were ready to put it all together as not just a teacher and practitioner, but someone actually have experienced this. So, which is gold. So I love your story, and which lead me to two further questions. One of them, it's about, I know that you work a lot with women, especially relationships. So is this something you find it almost quite common in a modern day society, that women tends to have a bit of a trouble managing? I felt we're probably in a similar age group, where we're like young mothers, so to speak. We have a business, we have a career. So that's a bit of that. And is this something you particularly can see and observe modern day women that tend to have maybe a bit of challenge with, and what could be a really good way to look at it or handle it?
Definitely. Well, firstly, I think you may be much younger than me, but
let's don't try to nail it down right here. We're young mothers that has
yes,
a job or
yeah,
a career and
I'm
business.
happy with that label, a young mother. But no, definitely, as women, we are kind of encouraged to be busy, and to be successful, to be working hard, and at the same time we have to balance that with our role as a mother, if that's that's the phase we're in. And it can be really difficult to balance those two together if we don't make any adjustments. I definitely think a woman can have it all, if that's what she wants. But I don't think you need to sacrifice anything, especially not your well-being. But I do think you need to make adjustments. And what we often don't, from my experience, for myself, and what I've seen with so many women, is that the one thing that we let slide is our kind of time for ourselves. So this time for self-care, whatever that means to you, self-love, whatever that means to you, and just these kind of activities that bring us joy, that we may have had time for in the past, but now that we've had a baby, 1, 2, 3, 4,
Five.
five, or we've got a business, or we have a lot of work, or whatever it is going on in our lives, it seems that women tend to more easily let those kind of pleasurable activities slide. So that's kind of the whole point of the name Stella Wellness. It's about feeling stellar, feeling good. it's also a huge component in CBT. In like one whole session is all about you and identifying the activities that give you joy. It's called pleasant activity scheduling. So you identify the activity. So maybe for some people it could be just something simple like having a bath every day. And for another person, it could be dancing. Another person, it could be yoga. And for some people, that activity is really difficult to identify because it's been such a long time since they did it. Like other people might be.
If you have a client in this situation, you're trying to identify what's your pleasure activity, and someone look at you like in tears and say, I just don't know anymore. I don't remember when was the last time I thought about that. That's sad, isn't it?
And it's so common because I'm not just talking about an activity that's important or necessary or something that you need. It's something that gives you joy as well. And hopefully each person, each woman has a long list of those things. And then, it's step by step trying to make time for one of those things, two of those things, three of those things, and to make time every day. So it's my whole focus in my own life and with clients. And it's something that I try and teach to my children as well. It's really important. I have one daughter, 3 sons, and the baby that's coming is a girl as well. It's so important to me that this message is always at the forefront of our minds. What gives me joy? What makes me feel alive? What activity can I do right now that will make me feel recharged? And to always have this kind of thought, not let it slide, because I find that women often just think, I just don't have time. I don't deserve it. I'll do it on my birthday. Maybe I'll book a massage on my birthday. Whereas really, life is quite short, and we should, I think, do a lot of fun things.
Well, when we're talking about children, that's exactly my thought. Because when I look at my daughter, she's 2. And this is all her purpose. Everything, what interests her, what she's curious about, she go investigate. What give her joy, she do more of that. Because she's at an age where there's no responsibility. And she's fully exploring what makes her feel good and happy. And she's like a wild spirit running around and dancing and singing. Because that's what I think is our human nature. We are programmed to seek joy, but then we've been conditioned to say you need to do this and this and this and this, have a career, have money, and responsibility. That has its place as well. There is a structure to that. But then we forget that's also this part of finding daily joy. It may not have to be like something substantial or expensive or long time. It just a little thought can really make a difference. And I definitely am a believer of it. Like, I don't know whether I practice it enough, but I definitely think there's a place, because what people don't understand is that the 10 minutes that you have for yourself, meditation, or just for you to really calm your mind or just be you, it can actually change your, first of all, body chemistry, your mindset, but also your productivity. So you are not losing anything, but only gaining something. But a lot of people have a perspective is that if I do this for myself, I'm not doing this something else that may be more important. But sometimes we're being misguided. What is really important, how do we really create better productivity? It's not always, how many tasks per minute. It's not, doesn't work like that.
Definitely, I see it as an investment in yourself, and if you are, it's almost just like having a car, or if you're maintaining yourself, you're looking after yourself, you run better, and everyone around you benefits, whether that's your employees, your work colleagues, your boss, or your children.
Or because you're a role model, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm so excited just to, think about, there may be some people sitting there and thinking, wow, that sounds so amazing. I want some of that. So I know part of your business is definitely face-to-face in person, and you live in Sweden. So for the yoga and massage component, maybe some people may not be able to reach you. many of my audience are in Australia, some are in US and UK and Asia. But I know that the other part of the business is online. So maybe people can still find you and work with you if they think that's something that could be useful. So what would be the easiest way for people to connect with you or find you?
Yes, definitely. Firstly, if you want to get a massage or go to yoga, there's definitely someone near you. So do that today. I believe in regular massage and regular yoga. It's life-changing. But yeah, if you're interested in CBT, I'm launching an online course. It's specifically based on the CBT model of thoughts, feelings, and behavior, and the link, so changing your patterns. And it's specifically designed for women who are suffering from stress or anxiety. And then I do also provide online one-to-one holistic relationship coaching. And this is in the kind of style of it's quite active, and it's not just focused on behavior, but also very much about how you feel as a woman, and celebrating kind of embodiment practices. So, and always with this idea of mindfulness and pleasure being the focus. So
Okay.
yeah, I've got a page, www.stellawellness.se, and I also write a blog there.
Right. I will certainly put the link below on my blog. And, if you listen to podcast, you will see in the details page, there's also a link. So it's stellawellness.se.
Yeah.
And anyway, that's the link. And I just love to thank you for your time and share with us your expertise and your tips and advice and, your awesome journey. And for those who can't see, actually, Niomi is pregnant. So she's actually have child number 5. So if you also want advice about how to balance life, work, family, I guess you got something to share.
Yeah, I do write a lot about work-life balance and all of that on my blog.
Great. Just check it out. And thank you so much for your time today. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Z.